Discover the incredible letter from a little girl that revealed a life-changing truth to a power. Emma Johnson's heart raced as she clutched her pencils, the sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. 10 years young, with wild curls and a spirit bursting with innocence, she felt like she was holding the world in her small hands. But lately, there was a heavy cloud looming over her home. It wasn't just the gray skies of autumn, it was the palpable tension in the air. Her father, once a proud soldier, now laid restless on the couch, scrolling through job ads with tired eyes, his spirit dimmed by unemployment. Meanwhile, her mother worked double shifts at the diner, her smile a mask for the weariness that weighed her down. As whispers began to swirl in their close-knit suburban neighborhood, Emma became a silent observer of the struggles that seeped into their lives, suffocated by the echoes of financial strain. Friends, who once giggled on bikes, now wore unspoken burdens that seemed too heavy for little shoulders. One afternoon, while scribbling in her notebook, Emma felt a spark. This was more than just storytelling, this was a chance to be heard. With trembling hands and a brave heart, she began to write a letter to the local congressman. "Dear Sir," she started. "My name is Emma Johnson, and I live in a quiet neighborhood where everyone knows each other. My dad was a great soldier, but now he struggles. My mom works so hard, and I see many kids like me who need help." I believe her words poured out, raw and sincere. She wrote about her family's fight, about her classmates who went hungry, about dreaming of a future where everyone had enough. Before she knew it, Emma finished her letter and tucked it into an envelope. What happened next was something out of a fairy tale. The letter found its way online, transformed into a headline splashed across screens. Child's letter to Congress sparks national conversation. Social media erupted, illuminating Emma's words like wildfire. People took notice, active voices, countless shares, and suddenly Emma was no longer just the girl next door. She became a symbol of hope and innocence in a world grappling with inequality. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But the uproar brought unintended tension to Emma's family. Her father's pride clashed with the attention, feeling overshadowed by the growing national dialogue about their situation. Emma witnessed the pain behind her father's eyes, the tightening of his jaw when discussions arose over dinner. Community members whom he once considered friends now gazed at him with pity, a feeling he couldn't bear. Meanwhile, her mother struggled between concern for their family and being supportive of Emma's newfound voice. The town buzzed with preparations for a meeting to address the deep-rooted issues Emma's letter raised. Would it bring unity, or would it tear their already fraying community apart? Emma's hands shook as she imagined standing before a crowd of adults, sharing her heart, knowing her family's struggles were now public. With her small stature, she would soon face the weight of their realities. Could she bring the light they needed? Would her small voice truly resonate, or would it be drowned in fear and pride? Emma felt the weight of anticipation settle in her chest as the day of the meeting approached. The town hall stood imposing against the cloudy sky, its doors wide open like an invitation to face a storm. A crowd gathered outside, murmuring anxiously, their eyes searching for answers, for hope. Emma tugged at her curls, glancing around at familiar faces twisted in uncertainty. They were her neighbors, her friends, people she had shared giggles and ice cream with. But today, everything felt different. Her father stood by the entrance, hands shoved deep in his pockets, his expression reflecting a mix of pride and uneasiness. Emma caught his eye, and for a brief moment, they shared a silent understanding. This wasn't just about her letter anymore, it was about their entire family, their struggles laid bare. Her spirit faltered for a heartbeat, but then she remembered the purpose of her words, the change she wanted to ignite. The gathering inside was charged with emotion. Voices echoed off the walls, swirling into a chaotic symphony of concern and frustration. As speakers took turns at the podium, addressing the issues that had come to light: job loss, food insecurity, the haunting specter of despair, Emma shifted in her seat, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. Would anyone truly hear her? Finally, the moment came. The MC called her name, and she stood, her small frame trembling as she approached the microphone. The room fell silent, all eyes on her. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding fiercely. "Hi, I'm Emma." She paused, collecting her thoughts, searching their faces for support. "I wrote a letter because I wanted people to know that it's not just adults who are hurting. It's us, the kids too." A murmur traveled through the crowd, and she swallowed, feeling her resolve harden. "My dad is a great soldier who fought for our country. And now, he's looking for work. My mom works really hard, and yet I see my friends going hungry. We're all scared." Tears pricked at her eyes, but she pressed on, her voice steadying. "I just want to know that it's okay to talk about these things. That we can help each other. That no one has to struggle alone. We deserve hope." With those last words, Emma felt an electricity in the air, as if her truth had sparked something deep within the crowd. Murmurs shifted into applause. Adults exchanged glances filled with a mixture of admiration and realization. In that moment, Emma's vulnerability turned into power. Her father's posture relaxed slightly, and she caught a glimpse of pride blossoming in his eyes. After her speech, people began to approach her, some even with tear-streaked faces. They shared stories, insights, and ideas. This was a community coming alive, transforming fear into action. Emma felt the warmth of connections forming, the embers of change igniting. But underneath the hopeful energy, a new worry tugged at her heart. Would her words truly create lasting change, or would the moment flicker out like a candle in the wind? As the meeting wrapped up and the crowd dispersed, Emma spotted her father standing tall, talking with his buddies about ways to start a local support group. Her mother gave her a soft smile that brimmed with unshed tears. Emma took a deep breath, her own heart swelling with cautious hope. But still, she couldn't shake the dread in the pit of her stomach. What would happen tomorrow? Would they all slip back into silence? That unanswered question loomed, much bigger than she ever expected. As she left the hall, she felt the world shifting around her, but she couldn't tell if it would be for better or worse. Would their community embrace this new beginning, or would it turn back to its shell? Emma walked home, the cold wind biting her cheeks, as she whispered a quiet question to the stars above. How far could one little voice truly carry? The days following the town hall meeting took on a different rhythm. Emma woke up every morning, the world draped in a blanket of uncertainty. The echoes of her speech still danced in her mind, accompanied by the faces of those who had shared their pain and hope with her. But as the sun rose each day, so did her anxiety. Would anyone take action? Would they remember her words? At school, things felt heavier than usual. The laughter of her friends resonated off the walls, but underneath it, Emma could sense a collective tension. The cafeteria, once a place of joyful chaos, now felt quiet as students whispered among themselves. Emma sat with her best friend, Mia, who was staring at her tray with a furrowed brow. "Do you think they're really going to do something?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma wanted to say yes, to fill her with assurance, but uncertainty gripped her chest. "I hope so. I really hope so." After classes, Emma found herself wandering towards the community center, the site of their upcoming support group meeting. She was nervous, the butterflies in her stomach fluttering madly as she pushed open the door. Inside, a small crowd had already gathered. It was comforting to see familiar faces, yet her heart sank as she noticed the empty chairs, more than a few, actually. Where is everyone? Emma thought, her face reflecting the disappointment washing over her. Emma! You came! Her father greeted her, beaming from across the room. He looked so proud, but behind the smile, she could see the concern etched on his face. A reminder that this was still a battle. As the meeting began, Emma watched as people shared their stories. Some faced eviction, others struggled with health issues. As the tales unfolded, Emma felt a strange mix of sorrow and unity. The stark reality of their struggles was overwhelming, but the warmth in the room grew, each story stoking the fires of community spirit. Then a surprise guest arrived, Mayor Thompson. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Had her speech made such an impact? As he spoke about the town's initiatives and resources, her hope flickered like a candle in a gusty breeze. But then he dropped a bombshell: we're facing budget cuts. Gasps filled the room, the air thickening with distress. Emma's thoughts spiraled as her hands clenched tightly. How could they make progress if help was being taken away? The weight of the moment felt unbearable. I started this support group so we could find solutions together, her father interjected, standing tall. We can't let these cuts define us. We need to be louder and more united. Claps faded into murmurs, and Emma, sensing a spark igniting in her chest, bolted up. Maybe we can do something. Maybe we can write letters, or organize events. We need to show that we care about our town. Her voice rang through the community room, catching people's attention as heads turned with renewed fire. Yes. Mia shouted, emboldened by Emma's determination. We can gather stories and send them to the newspaper. We need to let everyone know what's happening. The room erupted into energetic conversations, ideas bubbling into the air. Emma felt a rush of excitement as voices merged, creating a symphony of hope. Plans were formed, laughter mingled with serious talks, and for the first time since the meeting, the weight of despair started to lift just a little. But somewhere in the back of her mind, a whisper of doubt remained. Would this rallying cry last? Would they follow through? Emma felt the uncertainty creeping back, like mist swirling around her thoughts. As the evening drew to a close, Emma turned to her father. Do you really think we can change anything? He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, his gaze steady. If we don't try, we won't know. And that was the crux of it, wasn't it? Would they have the strength to push forward when faced with obstacles? With determination surging within her, Emma stepped outside. The lights danced against the darkening sky as she closed her eyes and whispered to the stars once more. What comes next? With each step, she felt the thrill of possibilities blooming, a wild urge for change beating in her heart. Emma woke up the next morning with a fire in her belly. The sun seeped through her window, illuminating the room as if urging her to rise. Today was the day. Today, she would put her idea into motion. The community needed action, and she was determined to lead the charge. After school, she hurried to the local high school library where she had borrowed a stack of pamphlets on advocacy and letter-writing campaigns. They were dog-eared and filled with highlighted notes, her ambitions spilling across the pages. She found a quiet corner next to the window and spread them out before her, each document a piece of the puzzle for their mission. Mia joined her, plopping down with her own notebook. I'm ready, she exclaimed, excitement radiating from her. What's the plan? Emma smiled, the tension easing just a bit. I was thinking we could organize a letter-writing campaign. We can get everyone in town to write to the mayor and the council. Share their stories. Tell them how the cuts are affecting us. Brilliant, Mia said, immediately jotting down notes. We can create a flyer to explain what we're doing, maybe even a deadline for submissions. Emma's heart swelled with hope. Yes. And we should make it personal. People need to understand that these cuts impact real lives, our lives. Together, they crafted a flyer, highlighting the importance of community voices in times of struggle. They spent hours brainstorming ways to spread the word, announcements at school, posts on social media, and even flyers at the community center. Emma felt alive, energized by the possibility of real change. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they headed to the community center for the upcoming group meeting. This was where everything would come together. Emma could feel her pulse quickening with each step, an odd mix of fear and exhilaration wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Familiar faces filled the room, and Emma's heart raced as she stood in front of them. She could do this. She had to do this. Thank you all for coming. She began, her voice shaking slightly but gaining strength. I know we all feel overwhelmed with the news about the budget cuts. She paused, scanning the crowd, seeing the worry etched on every face. But we can't let that silence us. We need to make our voices heard. The murmurs grew louder, people leaning in to listen. This isn't just about numbers. It's about our families, our neighbors, our community. Each letter we write, each story we share matters. Mia stood beside her, holding up the flyer with shaking hands. We're organizing a letter-writing campaign. We want to send letters to the mayor and the council. Let them know how these cuts affect us. We need your stories. A ripple of conversation swept through the room. Emma's heart soared as she realized she was not alone in this fight. Familiar faces nodded in agreement, people she had grown to admire and respect. They understood the weight of their struggles and the power of their voices. One woman, Mrs. Henderson, raised her hand. I'll share my story, she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. My daughter relies on the town's programs. If we lose them, it'll break our family. Emma felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. It was moments like these that affirmed her belief in the power of honesty. We're here for you, and we'll make sure your voice is heard. As stories flowed from the crowd, some heart-wrenching, others empowering, the energy in the room transformed. Laughter mixed with tears, hope mingled with purpose. Emma's fears began to melt away, replaced by a robust sense of belonging and strength in unity. As the meeting wrapped up, Emma felt a surge of excitement. They had plans, people willing to fight alongside her. But deep down, she wondered if it was enough. Would they really make an impact? Walking outside, the cool night air enveloped her. Stars lit up the sky, as if winking in encouragement. With her heart full and her mind racing with possibilities, Emma looked to Mia and grinned. This is just the beginning. But as she whispered to herself, a nagging worry clawed at her heart, whispering uncertainties. What if their voices weren't strong enough? What if they faced setbacks? With deep determination, Emma inhaled deeply, trying to push away the doubts. Tomorrow, we start sending letters. And as she took a step into the darkening world, she couldn't shake the feeling something bigger was approaching. What would tomorrow bring? The next morning, Emma woke up feeling both anxious and invigorated. Today was crucial. She sprang from her bed, pulling on her favorite worn jeans and a t-shirt that read "Stand Up, Speak Out." Looking in the mirror, she took a moment to gather herself. She couldn't allow fear to overshadow her resolve. After breakfast, she and Mia met at the usual spot outside the school. The air was brisk, but Emma noticed that Mia's smile was warmer than the sunshine breaking through the clouds. Ready to shake things up? Mia asked, her eyes sparkling. As ready as I'll ever be, Emma replied, clutching a stack of their flyers. They made their way to school, where the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation for the rally later that afternoon. Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of their mission with each step. In the classroom, the chatter turned to the budget cuts again, casting a shadow over the bright faces of her peers. Each comment sharpened Emma's determination. She turned to Mia and squeezed her hand. Let us do this. We need to make it personal. Show them this isn't just about numbers. During lunch, the cafeteria felt electric. Emma climbed onto a table, grabbing everyone's attention. Hey, everyone. She called, her voice rising above the din. She could feel her heart thump. I want to talk about something important. Our community is facing budget cuts, and it's going to hurt us all. Students exchanged anxious glances. We're organizing a letter-writing campaign to send to the mayor. We need your stories. Your experiences matter, and they deserve to be heard, Emma declared, her eyes sweeping over the crowd. She watched as heads nodded, some even raising their hands in support. Mia handed out flyers, while Emma explained how letters could reflect individual voices and collective strength. We're the heart of this town. If we stand together, we can make a difference. Her passion ignited the room, and whispers of agreement spread like wildfire. After lunch, Emma and Mia set up a table in the common area, inviting students to share their stories. Each letter they collected carried not just words, but hope. They poured their hearts onto the pages, writing about dreams, fears, and the impact the cuts might have on their lives. Emma read them, tears sometimes blurring her vision. Each story was a reminder of why they were doing this. As the school day came to an end, Emma's heart raced. She felt an electrifying mix of hope and fear. What if the mayor didn't listen? What if their efforts fell flat? Just as she was lost in thought, a voice broke through. Emma, I'm with you, a tall boy named Luis said, approaching the table. My brother is in a program that's getting cut, and I want to share that. His sincerity made her stomach flutter. Thank you, Luis. We need voices like yours, Emma said, her smile widening, feeling the burden lift a little more. After school, they assembled at the community center for the rally. People trickled in, filling the room with warmth and camaraderie. Emma stood at the front, her heart pounding. She looked at Mia, then at the crowd. This was it. Thank you all for being here. We are here to defend our community and express the need for change. Each of your voices add to the chorus, a beautiful, powerful chorus, Emma spoke, her voice resolute. Amid cheers, Mia produced a massive box filled with letters. These are real stories from our community. This is what matters. She yelled, the box raised high, inspiring a surge of energy in the room. But just as she began feeling the swell of unity, someone in the back shouted, what if it's not enough? Anxiety swept over the crowd. Emma's heart sank. Doubts crept in like shadows, but she couldn't let that happen today. With a steady breath, she spoke louder. We are enough. This is just the start. Together, we can hold our leaders accountable. She hadn't realized how much they needed that collective voice. This time they wouldn't let fear silence them. The rally was only the first blow against the doubts and oppression they faced. The fight was on, but what other challenges awaited them on this journey? Emma had to find out. Emma's heart raced as she looked across the sea of faces in the community center. The energy was palpable, but a thread of anxiety spiraled through her as she felt the weight of what lay ahead. We need to push through, she thought, locking eyes with Mia, who was nodding in encouragement. Mia's unwavering belief in their cause bolstered Emma's resolve. What if it's not enough? That voice echoed in her mind, reminding her of doubt, but she shook her head, banishing the thought. They had to give their all. With renewed determination, she glanced over at the letters in the box. Each one was a testament to the struggles and dreams of their peers, and they were not alone. As speakers took turns at the microphone, sharing their own stories, Emma watched the crowd lean in, captivated by each narrative. A girl spoke about how the cuts would mean losing access to her art classes that fueled her passion and gave her purpose. A father shared how crucial the after-school programs were for his children, providing them a safe space and guidance. Every word struck Emma like a drumbeat. Their rally wasn't just about fighting for budget lines, it was about preserving hope, dreams, and livelihoods. The energy in the room shifted. It was no longer just a group of students, this was a community ready to stand united. Mia stepped up to the mic next. You all know how important these stories are. But we cannot stop here, she urged. We need to make our voices heard at City Hall. Let's organize a meeting. Who's with us? The response was swift, students erupted in applause, fists pumping in the air, and Emma felt the electricity run through her body. But just then, the door swung open, and in walked a somber-looking woman, the mayor's aide. The room fell silent as she approached the stage. "I've come to hear about your concerns. The mayor wants to listen," she announced, serious but hopeful. Emma's heartbeat accelerated. This was what they dreamed of, but it also filled her with fear. What if they weren't prepared? What if their voices failed them at the pivotal moment? She exchanged worried glances with Mia, who was equally taken aback but quickly regained her composure. "Let us share these letters with her," Emma whispered urgently to Mia. The idea felt bold and risky, but they had to make their case compelling. They gathered the box, and as Emma held it steady, she realized how crucial these stories were not just to the rally, but to the future of their community. When Emma stepped up to the mic again, her voice was firm despite her nerves. "These stories represent the heart of our community. They are not just words, they are our lives. We need them to be heard." The air buzzed with anticipation as she started reading. The room absorbed each word, the pain, the joy, the determination. By the time she finished, Emma could see tears glistening in the eyes of some of her classmates, while others clenched their fists, ready to fight. As she looked across the room, she could feel the connection. This was bigger than budget cuts, this was about community and belonging. They were in this together. Just then, after Emma stepped down, the aide spoke again. "I'll bring these letters to the mayor myself, but I need you all to follow up. When's the last time your voice was truly heard in this town?" As the crowd buzzed, someone shouted, "Let's go with you." A wave of agreement surged forward. Emma felt the thrill of possibility. They could take this energy right to the heart of where change could happen. But as excitement pulsed through her veins, a darker thought crept in: what if the mayor doesn't listen? Emma shook her head, refusing to let doubt take root. They could do this. They were enough. What other hurdles do we face? She wondered silently. If this was only the beginning, then she was ready to uncover whatever lay ahead. Emma stepped back from the microphone, her heart still pounding as if trying to catch the energy that thrummed through the room. Faces around her were lit with hope, anticipating a response from the mayor's aide that could forever change their community. Was this really happening? She couldn't shake a mix of relief and anxiety. What lay ahead was as terrifying as it was exhilarating. Mia nudged Emma lightly, a wide grin breaking across her face. "Okay, we did it. Can you feel that? We actually took action." Her voice dripped with excitement, infectious enough to make Emma smile too, even amid the uncertainty. "Yeah," Emma replied, her voice quiet, the weight of tomorrow heavy on her mind. "But what if it doesn't go our way?" "Then we fight harder," Mia said, determination lining her tone. "We don't stop. We have the letters, the stories. We have each other. We have to keep this fire burning." In that moment, Emma felt hope blend with reality. They could fight for change, yes, but it would take more than bravery. It would demand unity, perseverance, and the willingness to confront fear at every turn. As the aide prepared to leave with the box of letters, the room buzzed with whispers, some voices hopeful, others anxious. "Who wants to come with us?" A classmate shouted, standing tall among the sea of seated students. "Let us make noise at City Hall." The energy surged again, vibrating like an electric current. Hands shot up, and suddenly everyone was on their feet, pressing forward. Emma and Mia exchanged a glance that said it all: they were leading something they couldn't back down from. Moments later, the crowd flowed toward the exit, an unstoppable wave of teenagers chanting and cheering. Emma felt pride swell in her chest, and for the first time that evening, she allowed herself to dream of making real changes, not just for them, but for everyone who shared their fears and aspirations. City Hall loomed ahead, a grand building whose very presence felt heavy with authority. The group slowed, some first-timers hesitating at the steps. But Mia shouted, "Remember why we're here. We are the voice of our community." With that rallying cry, their nerves melted. They surged up the stairs, resolute and passionate. Emma couldn't help but be swept up in the moment. She was part of something bigger than herself. Inside, they gathered in a waiting area. The air was thick with anticipation. People milled about, busy with their own lives, seemingly oblivious to the battle brewing just beyond those walls. Emma felt a twinge of doubt again. What if the mayor's aide was dismissed? What if the letters were simply read and forgotten? Before she could spiral, a small girl, possibly no older than 7, tugged at the hem of Emma's shirt. Her big, brown eyes shimmered with innocence and sincerity. "Are you going to read my letter too?" she asked, holding out a little crumpled paper. Emma blinked in surprise. She hadn't realized that letters were still coming in. "Yes, I promise we'll read it," she said softly. The girl smiled, a mix of hope and shyness. "It's really important. It's about my mom. She needs help to keep her job." Emma's heart clenched. Here was a voice so pure and genuine, one that cut through her earlier doubts. This was what it was all about. The future rested on them, on these stories, shared in the most vulnerable ways. The sound of heels clicking on the ground interrupted her thoughts as a stern-looking woman in a suit approached. "We're ready to hear your concerns," she said, but an air of indifference surrounded her. Emma felt the stirring of fear again, but she glanced at the girl beside her, clinging to the hope that somehow, they could make a difference. And with that, the moment of truth began to unfold. Would they seize this chance or let it slip away? Emma took a deep breath. The stakes were high, and her voice trembled with potential. What would they say to the mayor's aide that could change everything? Would this little girl's letter change their fate? The room felt smaller, the air thicker as Emma gathered her thoughts. She could see her friends, the classmates who had rallied alongside her, forming a supportive circle around her. Every face reflected a fervent blend of hope and fear, mirroring her own emotions. The disdain in the aide's expression made Emma's insides churn, but she steeled herself. The aide raised a brow, waiting patiently for them to speak. "We have our letters," Emma said, her voice stronger than she felt. "They tell the stories of our lives, the struggles we face every day." Mia stepped forward, her words pouring out with fierce conviction. "We need you to understand that these aren't just letters. There are cries for help. Each story is a plea for change. We won't be ignored." Emma could feel the collective energy in the room shift as Mia spoke. It was as if the walls of City Hall trembled slightly, sensing the urgency in her words. The aide's expression softened for just a heartbeat. "Listening to the community is part of our duty," the aide replied, her tone less etched in stone than before. "But what are you proposing?" Emma glanced toward the girl holding her letter. "This girl's story is just part of it. What about the other letters? The families struggling to keep their homes? The kids who can't get a proper education? We need you to take these stories seriously." Hope surged in her chest. It was happening. They were being heard. "Okay," the aide said, her demeanor shifting. "Let us start with your young friend's letter. What does it say?" Emma motioned for the girl to come forward. The little girl's hands trembled a bit as she clutched the crumpled paper, but her eyes sparkled with determination. "It's about my mom. She works so hard, but sometimes, she doesn't make enough money." Her voice was soft but steady. "I want her to be happy. I want her to have a job that makes her feel safe." The aide listened intently, a small crease forming on her forehead. Emma's heart raced. Could this truly influence something so larger than any of them could imagine? Children shouldn't have to worry about their parents, Emma realized as she spoke. "We want to ensure that every family feels secure and supported. Whether it's providing better job opportunities or access to food resources, this has to change." There was a quiet moment, the weight of the little girl's statement settling in the room. A murmur passed among Emma's peers, a ripple of realization that they were standing at the edge of something profound. The aide straightened up, her gaze more resolute. I'm taking all of this very seriously. We have to dig deeper into each story, every letter. You have my word that this will be brought to the mayor. Thank you, Emma breathed, a wave of relief washing over her. A flicker of possibility ignited in the room like a spark. Just then, a voice rose from the crowd, shattering the moment. But what if that's all it is? What if it never reaches him? Another classmate, filled with doubt, crossed his arms. Emma flicked her attention to him, the flicker of hope fading momentarily. What if it didn't go beyond this? She opened her mouth to respond, but suddenly, the atmosphere shifted again, this time around a crack in her heart. Taking a deep breath, she spoke from the core of her being. If we keep fighting for every individual story, how can it not matter? We hold the power to make them see. As they all nodded, energy swelled in Emma's chest again. They had come this far. There was a world beyond these walls that was waiting for them to speak up. Emma stood taller, her spirit soaring with renewed fire. But what if it was only the beginning of the fight? The thought weighed heavy as the aide nodded in acknowledgement. Would this be enough to spark actual change, or was it just the first step in a long road ahead? A hand squeezed her shoulder, and she turned to see Mia's reassuring smile. We're in this together. And as they moved deeper into their mission, Emma felt the question linger in the air. What came next would determine their resolve, but would their voices be powerful enough to shift the course of their community's future? The days following their meeting felt like they stretched on forever. Emma could hardly contain her excitement and anxiety as she waited to hear back about their letters. Each tick of the clock seemed to echo her thoughts, spinning tales of hope and doubt. Finally, it was Friday afternoon when the news arrived. The aide had sent a message through a group email, addressed to Emma and her classmates. They crowded around Mia's phone, their faces lit in the soft glow of the screen. Emma felt her heart race. As everyone read the email, silence settled over the group like a thick curtain. The aide had informed them that their letters were being taken seriously, and she would present them to the mayor in a town meeting next week. The words of encouragement were laced with bureaucratic formality, but to Emma, they sparked a fire within her. We can do this, she exclaimed, her voice breaking through the silence. This is our chance. Cheers erupted among her peers. Laughter and voices bounced off the walls of Mia's living room as they celebrated this first victory. But beneath Emma's excitement lay an undercurrent of uncertainty. What if it doesn't change anything? A voice piped up, bringing everyone back to earth. Emma felt the weight of that worry settle around her shoulders. We can't think that way. She sat cross-legged on the floor, looking at her friends. We have to believe that every story counts. I mean, we're not just here for ourselves, we're fighting for the future. We have to stay positive. Mia nodded, but Emma could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes. What's our plan then? What if the mayor doesn't understand? Emma drew in a deep breath and glanced around the room. She saw their hopeful faces and felt a swell of determination. We'll keep telling our stories. We can speak at the meeting. If we can show the mayor that these aren't just letters but real lives, real struggles, it'll make a difference. Over the next few days leading up to the meeting, Emma and her friends poured their energy into preparing. They practiced their speeches, pouring their hearts into every word. Their mission turned into a whirlwind of late-night brainstorming sessions and rehearsals, each meeting filled with laughter and nerves. On the morning of the town meeting, Emma felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear. Standing in front of the mirror, she flicked her hair back and straightened her shoulders. Reflection stared back at her, a determined young woman ready to fight for what she believed in. As they walked together toward City Hall, Emma could see the weight of the moment in her friend's eyes. Families bustled around them, unaware of the monumental occasion brewing just within those walls. When they arrived, a palpable tension filled the air. Inside the large room, a podium stood at the front, surrounded by rows of chairs. People began to gather, various groups whispering among themselves. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. Remember, she whispered to her friends, we're here for each story, for every family. As the mayor took the stage and cleared his throat, her stomach twisted with nerves. This was it. The moment that could change everything. Would he truly listen? Or would they walk away feeling invisible once again? With her friends beside her, Emma felt the shared weight of hope swell in her chest. They had come this far, overcoming doubt and fear. The real fight was just beginning. But as the mayor began to speak, a new question formed in her mind: what if their collective voices were louder than any doubts? What if this changed everything? Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart racing as she took in the scene around her. Rows of chairs filled the town hall, each one occupied by familiar faces, each person a piece of the collective puzzle they had become. Today was the day. Today they would share their stories, their truths, their hopes. The mayor approached the podium, a mix of anticipation and anxiety swirling within Emma. He cleared his throat, and the room fell silent. Thank you all for gathering today, he began, his voice steady yet open. As many of you know, we've received letters expressing concern about the recent budget cuts affecting our community. Emma felt the tension in the air shift. It was now or never. She exchanged a glance with Mia, whose bright eyes mirrored her own determination. They had come so far and they had to fight for what they believed in. One by one, their classmates took the stage, sharing their letters, their stories cascading like a river of feelings. A boy spoke about his dreams of becoming a doctor, but worried how cutbacks would limit his access to scholarships. A girl detailed how she relied on school meals. Those meals kept her focused and steady in class. Each voice fed the energy in the room, sparking murmurs of support. As the raw emotion filled the air, Emma's heart swelled. They were being heard, truly heard. And then, it was Emma's turn. With each step toward the podium, she felt the weight of her mission pressing squarely on her shoulders. She took a deep breath and grasped the microphone. Hi, I'm Emma, she started, looking out at the sea of faces, her friends' encouraging smiles giving her strength. This journey began with a simple letter. But it's so much more than words on a page. It's our voices. It's the voices of children, parents, and families struggling to keep hope alive amidst uncertainty. As she spoke, her voice grew stronger, more resolute. These budget cuts aren't just numbers, they affect real lives. My dad fought for our country. Now, he is searching for work. My mom works tirelessly to provide for us. And I see the struggles of friends who go hungry while trying to learn. Tears welled in Emma's eyes, but she blinked them away with purpose. We're fighting not just for ourselves but for everyone in our community. This is about more than just survival, it's about thriving together. We deserve programs that empower us, that uplift us. A wave of claps erupted in the room. Emma's heart raced. Their voices were amplified, echoing back at her from every corner. As she finished, she looked into the crowd and saw her father beaming with pride. The weight of shame that had clouded his shoulders seemed to lift. And in that moment, Emma felt like they were all standing tall together. After the speeches concluded, the mayor addressed the room again, his tone shifting to one of recognition. Thank you for sharing your stories. They matter. I assure you, these will not go unheard. We need to work together to find solutions. His eyes scanned the crowd, and it felt like a promise. A cheer erupted, quickly followed by a wave of excitement rippling through the room as their community united. Emma gazed around, her heart swelling with hope. People who once shared doubts now joined hands in solidarity. After the meeting, Emma, Mia, and their friends huddled together, the adrenaline bubbling within them. Did you see that? Mia exclaimed, eyes shining brightly. He actually listened. Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of disbelief and elation. We made them see us. We're more than just children, we're the voice of our community. In the days that followed, something magical happened. The mayor organized a committee to address the issues raised during the meeting with the students. Emma's heart soared each time she saw familiar faces in the papers, through newsletters, speaking at events, their voices taking root in every corner of the town. Emma knew this was just the start. While challenges still loomed on the horizon, her heart was now filled with the light of possibility. Together, they were stronger, and her small voice had turned into a chorus of hope. Later that evening, as she sat under a blanket of stars, Emma whispered her gratitude into the night, feeling an undeniable connection with everyone around her. This isn't the end, she decided firmly. This is just the beginning. And that thought settled within her a promise, a pledge to keep fighting, to keep speaking, and to inspire others along the way. Remember, we can be the change we want to see. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread these stories further. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can inspire hope and change.